In this episode, you will meet JP Calkins. He is a professional salesman and my very first supervisor at Best Buy. We worked closely together for a period of years and I know him very well. And the reason why I asked him to be on this show is because he never quit. He just kept pushing forward through the grind of working retail, through the grind of trying to get a job that he felt he wasn't qualified for and creating a strategy to get an interview. And he worked his butt off to get the position that he has now, which I find very inspiring, but also because salespeople in general, they don't get a good rap. And so I wanted to provide insight onto what that experience is like because sales is a noble profession. This interview was recorded a month ago prior to the stay-at-home restrictions. So that's why we filmed studio, and I hope you guys enjoy. Welcome to Tuesdays with Andrea. It's the inspiration station for everyday people guiding humanity forward. I'm your host, Andrea Rios McMillan, and every week I pursue conversations that matter with people who can relate to the common struggles we all face. You'll get to know the person behind the profession and find commonality with people of all ages, cultures, and backgrounds. Listen as friends, neighbors, and coworkers offer meaningful, personal explorations of modern life and the values we hold dear, all for the purpose of strengthening and uplifting others. Today we have Mr. JP Calkins. We used to work together at Best Buy, so former colleague, and now we are kind of sharing family experiences, professional experiences. We're adulting. We're adulting basically. And while we're recording this, it's a Sunday morning.
Yes.
So that's why we have the mimosas.
Yes.
we're just so you guys know.
This is Hot Mess Express.
This is Hot Mess Express. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank
you.
For being here. Having me. This is great. It's a good reason to get up a little earlier and not have little kids around me. So
yes,
I'm enjoying this already.
I know, right? You have a little bit of free time.
Yes.
A little me time.
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
No. No.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Give the audience a little background.
From Joliet, married to Grace. She's amazing. I have 3 kids. Miranda, who's 5, and then twin boys, Cannon and Carson. I'm sure you've got to meet them. They're 3 years old, and they are setting the world on fire, literally. Got my start in retail and worked my way up through medical sales, running a business right now in my free time, which means it's probably not getting ran because I don't have free time.
Because you have no free time.
Right. No, we'll get into that too. It's nice to have that business, but all of that kind of stems from maybe finding your niche.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the one thing I always tell people is, you know, when they say, how'd you do it? What'd you do? I say, well, you can't just say, I want to do something or I want to find a hustle. If you find yourself using that word, you got to define the word hustle first.
Yeah. What does that word mean to you?
When I hear other people use it, I
use it.
Right. And when I do that, I automatically not judge, but I start to dissect.
Okay.
And the first thing I say is that a hustle as in you want to hustle me? Or you want to hustle somebody? Or you want to hustle a market? Maybe you're not hustling a person, but you're hustling a market. Or you're going to hustle. So when somebody says, how did you find your side hustle?
Oh, yeah.
I make them tell me, what's your idea of a side hustle? And I decide there if I really want to talk to them about it or not. Maybe educate them a little bit and say, well, first of all, you're not in the right mindset. If you're looking for something that's going to get you a supplemental income that will replace your job because you don't want to work anymore, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
You're going to fail. You know, but if it's something you truly are passionate about and your job allows you to have that outlet because you're happy in your job and you can think straight and you can come from a good place, then it's good.
Yeah.
Then you'll make it.
Yeah. I agree with you. But it's rare. It's rare when you have a job that's understanding, a job that's supportive and flexible. Shout out CompTIA, because they are. It's rare.
Yeah.
And also to get to a place where you feel that you have the time, that you have the energy, that you have even the resources or the availability to give something else, of yourself for that passion project.
Yeah, that's a sticking point with me. I always talk to people and they'll ask me, what about this? What about that? Because we both worked at Best Buy.
Yeah.
And it was great. I mean, that place gave me everything I have today, including my wife, including friends like you, Johnny, Raul. I mean, God, it was better than high school. I have some high school friends that I am still lifelong friends with, but that's like a group of 6 guys, and we spent 4 years together. We spent a lot more than that. I was there for 9 years.
Yeah.
And we weren't there for just 7 to 3. We were there, Black Fridays. We were there on weekends, holidays. Like the time we gave up with our family, we were spending together.
Yes.
So it was like high school on steroids.
Yeah.
Or it was like.
Or college.
Or yeah, I mean.
Right. I learned. So I started working at Best Buy after graduating college because I couldn't find a job. Like, it was so hard because everyone wanted experience. And I had experience at a law firm. I had experience, working as a sales manager, but not as a professional, like, marketer or in the, agency, industry. And so that was hard. And Best Buy was a door that became open. Story for another day. Mm-hmm. But that's where we met. And that's where you go and you spend all of your time there. Yeah. There's no free time when you're working at Best Buy.
No. And it's because, they did some good things.
At least when you're working in our positions. Where we were in leadership positions, and that's where you give up more. For regular sales associates, it's a great job. Great part-time job. High schooler, oh my God, perfect job.
Play with toys, clock in, clock out.
Yeah. I told John, I'm like, hey, boy, you better go play.
Plus, we need that discount.
We need that. And we're not going to do that.
No, wait. Did they change it if we live in the same roof? Or did they change that? We'll ask one of you guys. One of you guys that still work there. We need that info. I've been grooming my kids I even put the polos on them and everything. Yeah. Because I need some new stuff. So, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's talk about Best Buy, how you ended up there, and what it offered you.
Okay. So, I love music. Like, I played in band. I played the trumpet. I love guitar. I played around with drums a little bit. I absolutely love music. Ever since I was little, I had to have music on to go to bed. If the car was going, I needed music. I had headphones. I just really like it. It lets me come out of myself and just kind of relax and go. Mm-hmm. It's always been that way. So when I got my first jobs, it was, the rite of passage. Everybody has to work at that restaurant, for at least 6 months, so you do that, but I hated it.
You hated it.
I always respect people that work in the food industry because I absolutely despised it.
Can you imagine being that person between a hungry person and their food?
I was in the back cooking. Oh, I was a breader at Brown's Chicken. So all my Crest Hill people, we all did our time. So we all had to get a job there. One of my friends even he got a job there and quit that day just to say I did it because we all had to work there at that Brown's Chicken. But I just couldn't do it. I didn't like the smell of my clothes. I could smell it 3 days later on me. It was always grimy. I didn't like it. And I even volunteered later on to serve food at a convalescent center.
Is that why?
No. This was later, like when I was 21.
Okay.
I hated it at 16.
You're like,
I couldn't stand it. But I did it later on, but I still couldn't. I just couldn't stand it. I wasn't good at it.
Yeah.
And that's probably what it was. But then I saw Circuit City. And I saw that because, when you're younger, oh my gosh, computers, internet's coming out, and video games and CDs. Well, I worked at Musicland, actually, before that. And everybody knows you don't buy CDs in the mall. At least you knew that now, but back then you didn't.
But back then, that was where you bought CDs.
Sam Goody, Musicland, Record Town.
That's where you went.
Yeah, and I still remember 1831. That's how much a CD was after tax.
$18?
$18.31 because CDs were $16.99. We used to have a contest where my boss would put up Maxell blank tapes by the single. And she'd be like, whoever sells the most every day gets a free CD. Well, I heard free CD. I didn't hear sell. I was like, oh my God, I love music. I'm going to get a free CD. So it was $1 with a sale, a blank tape. And everybody had a tape deck in their car, not a CD player. Mm-hmm. So you know what I would say.
What?
oh yeah, this is a great CD. Where do you listen to it the most? Well,
in your car?
I'd love to listen to it in my car, but I don't have it. I don't have
tape.
a CD.
Yeah, I have a tape deck, not a CD
tape
player.
deck. It's $1. You know you're going to go home and you're going to want to record this, and you don't have a blank tape. Here's one for $1. Every single time. Every single time.
Oh, wait. So you would have them buy the CD, record it on a tape deck, and then use that?
Whatever they did with the tape was on them afterwards. I was just selling them a blank tape so I could get the free CD from my boss, because she would keep scoring and be like, okay, you sold 2. Paul sold 3. JP, there's no way you sold 27 blank tapes today.
Yeah.
She's like, you rang up 28 things. I'm like, yeah. She's like, absolutely. Where's my free CD? And they always let me pick it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're telling somebody that loves music, here's what you could do to get more music. I just found a need and I met it. You're going to listen to that in your car. You don't have a CD player. Let me help you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where that came from. So then on to Circuit City, because CDs were $10.99. And I just didn't feel right selling CDs at Musicland when you could walk down the street and buy them for $10.99. And you see kids using their hard-earned money, and I was 18 at the time, but 16-year-old kids, 13-year-old kids, and you're like, you can save a couple bucks walking down the street. So I went there to sell CDs.
Because it was better value for the customer.
It felt good to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I could sell so many more CDs at $10.99 than I can at 18.
Yeah.
And I was going to school at the time too, so it was just a fun place to be. But that's where things, I always tell people when they get caught in a job, is it's very easy to get caught doing something you're doing. I'm doing it well. I'm paying for all the things that I could ever want. This is comfortable. I'm just going to keep doing it. So that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, okay, well, then I got into sales because the small electronics guy would miss work frequently.
Yeah.
You know, selling CD Walkmans and tape Walkmans and stuff like that. And that paid commission back then. So I learned how to do it. And when he wouldn't go to work, I would step over there and sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And my numbers were huge. So the manager's like, I'm going to promote you. And I remember thinking, if I go there, I may start something that I might like, and I may never go back to school. So I was really hesitant. But I did it. I had a minor thing. Well, a major thing happened in my life at one point. And
at that time?
Yeah.
What was it? Do you mind?
Yeah, it was a girl I dated in high school for about 2 years. She was killed in a car accident the day after Valentine's Day. And I worked there at the time. And when something like that happens, imagine your life as like a big blanket. And you know how when you do something, you kind of, like if you flip that blanket, it ripples across. Mm-hmm. There's things in your life that make your blanket move and it ripples all across. That's one of the things. It just, my life from before that moment, after is different. Just different. It was 2 years, but when you're 18,
this is your first love. This is the person you're going to marry. This is your life.
Right.
You know, just at that age, you get in a fight with someone and it's the world's over. Right? Because this is your identity and your companion. And I get that.
It's your best friend at the time too.
Yes.
It's everything.
I think it's as adults to kind of minimize like any type of high school traumatic event. Because we forget what it's like at that time. We only see the lens of larger picture, time passes, other things happen. But when you're in that moment.
Oh, man. Especially if you don't have people around you that know how to handle that.
Yeah.
You have to
Who
figure it out.
Who don't know how to counsel you, maybe don't understand. How did you deal with that?
I don't think I dealt with it very well at all.
Okay.
I don't think until a couple years ago did I really deal with it.
Wow, yeah.
One of the things I chose to do was stay at Circuit City because it was like comfort. Mm-hmm. Like I just met these people. They like me. I'm doing really well at this job. I'm just going to come here as much as I can.
Yeah.
You know, so that was one of the things I did. And you get, especially males at 18. I mean, I'm probably going to make some people mad here, but we're not very bright before we turn 25. Actually, we're not very bright. But before we turn 25, we're pretty bad. We do some really stupid stuff.
Okay.
And my sons are 3. And I could see it in them. Like, are you kidding me? Like, my daughter's 5, and she never did. You're a meathead. Like, you're a meathead. You know, like, just the craziest, wackiest thing. Like, something you would yell at a puppy for, my sons are doing. So now I'm starting to think, oh, my God, when did I stop acting like a meathead? And I know it wasn't then.
God.
You know, so everything was about healing the moment. So it wasn't about what I was planning on doing in my life. It was, how do I get through today?
Yeah.
And getting through today was going to work and listening to music and having friends around me that I met.
Yeah.
You know, just, it was like a life change. I could get rid of my old life and start a new one.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do.
And that's what you did, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what I did. And, you know, lots of missteps along the way. I tried counseling for a day.
What happened?
We didn't connect. I see that now. She didn't know how to talk to me. Mm-hmm. Had she known how to talk to me or found out a way to talk to me, I know now it would have been beneficial.
Was it a high school counselor?
No.
Or just like an outside
yeah,
party?
It was,
okay.
Yeah, my parents didn't know what to do. So they just called someplace and took me and sat me down. Because it was hard on my mom. My mom took it. My sister was in kindergarten at the time.
Wow.
And she was in pieces.
Yeah.
My mom was wrecked. My dad didn't know what to do. And he just kept saying, I don't know what to do. You know, so they just took me somewhere and dropped me there for an hour.
Here you go. Save him.
There's something wrong. We're crying and he's just staring at a wall.
Yeah.
You know, can you knock on his head and see if he's okay? And she said some things that she didn't get my beliefs at the time. So the first thing she did was ask me about God.
Oh.
You're going to ask an 18-year-old male about God when everything just got taken from him, and the one thing he probably did was beg God for this not to happen.
Yeah.
You know, as the news was coming down, that didn't work at all. That was it. Shut off. I was like,
nope, not doing it.
All right, we're cool now, right? We're done. Yeah, we're done. And
we're
done. Was it. Never tried it again. So to say I dealt with it, I don't think I did. I think it was time and people, and you know, finding my place professionally that got me to finally dip back and deal with it, because I never dealt with it. I just would do things. Yeah.
To push move on.
You'd push it far away. And not her so much, because she was always there.
Yeah.
But the feeling and the memories, like, get it out. Like, create some memories or kill some brain cells to get that
out. Mm-hmm.
I think recently I saw some people from high school about 2 years ago when one of our teachers, Mr. Valkema, retired. And we had him together in band. And there was a reunion, and typically I wouldn't go. I just couldn't deal with it, because that hangs over my head too. People see you 20 years later and they're like, that happened to him. Don't ask. And just, so you see people looking at you like, oh, hey, how are you?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I'm fine. Let's talk about some things. But I would avoid things like that because of that. I didn't want to feel the eyes on me. And I wasn't going to go because I was afraid of all the rush of memories. But I kept in touch with a lot of people from there, and they were like family, and they would, you know, they truly loved me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I just looked at Grace the day of he had a little party, and I'm like, you know what, I gotta go.
Grace of who's?
I'm sorry. Mr. Volkman had a retirement party.
Oh, okay.
And I'd been invited, and I'm like, I don't know.
So you went?
Yes.
And then Grace, who is your wife now, she went with you?
No.
Wait, what?
No. I wasn't going to go to this.
Okay.
The day it was going on, my messages are going crazy. Come on, we want to see you. We haven't seen you in 25 years. No, I don't want to do it. And I was just stuck mentally a couple times. I could feel myself, and I'm like, maybe this is the thing that'll get me past it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just hit me like that. And I said, Grace, I'm going to go. And she's like, okay, do you need to go alone? And I was like, I think I do. Mm-hmm. I think I need to go alone. Mm-hmm. Because maybe I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, it was the end of it. It was, everybody gave me, everybody treated me normal. You know, I saw some people, you know, I hadn't seen in a long time, and none of that stuff came up. And it was just, how are you? Oh my God, this is it. And I felt it. I felt the page turn that day. And I remember driving home, and I called Grace. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's over. Like, I can get past it. Mind you, this is only 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So this happened in 1996.
Isn't that crazy?
It happened in 1996. And 2 years later, I remember exactly
2 years ago.
2 years ago, I remember exactly where I was sitting when I physically felt the page turn.
Wow. And it's something you're holding. You're really literally carrying this whole time.
Mm-hmm. And it drives your fears. It drives your decisions. You don't want to go too far, because then you're far away from it. You feel bad. You know, if you feel yourself moving up, Are you moving up and away? Are you running from it? Like, how often are you going to run from it? How long are you going to continue to run from it? And I think that's when I talk about getting stuck, back to how I ended up at Best Buy. That's how I got stuck in retail sales, because I buried myself in that.
That was your release.
Yeah.
This is the way that you coped.
It was
your coping mechanism.
Yeah. I was going to school. I wanted to be a lawyer. But I had a fear of speaking in front of people.
How ironic.
It's kind of weird.
You're like the master speaker.
So that's also, I was like, I'm going to get into the sales job because it's going to force me to do this.
Yeah.
And it's going to make me a good lawyer. That's the only thing I think I need to be a good lawyer. So I forced myself there. And she thought it was a great idea. She's like, I love talking to you, but you can't talk in front of people. You get so scared. You need to do this. So that was another thing too. Oh,
I think anyone who knows you would be so surprised to learn
probably
how you have a fear of talking, and like you had a fear because that's what you do. You're in circles and friend networks. You are the talker.
Yeah,
and you're good at it.
That's the part I'm glad you said, because I am hard on myself.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh man, I talk too much.
And sometimes you do, and there's nothing wrong with it. This is who you are, right? This is kind of who you are.
I don't like
You're a good talker. You like to talk, so talk.
It's not that I like it. It's just it doesn't stop. But that's what happened. Is I thought
you open that door, and all of a sudden
it's over. But I thought, if you pay me based on having to talk, I'm gonna get good at it. And I did. And plus, it was one of those things where it was like, you can't do that. Nobody can do that. Cell phones were just coming out. And that particular Circuit City, nobody was selling them. And I'm like, why aren't you guys selling these things? I bet there's a ton of money to be made in them. They're like, nobody knows. And I grew up in Joliet. So everybody shopped with their wallet. I can't afford these. I'm like, okay, I can't either, but people are coming for them. They probably can.
Yeah.
And so I trained myself how to program a cell phone, how to sell them, the plans, and I started selling cell phones, and I was making $80 a cell phone. Like, that's a lot of money for a 18-year-old kid back then, especially. You didn't need a lot of money in 1996 to buy.
I think gas was 99 cents, maybe $1.29.
98 cents.
Yeah,
yeah, I remember.
Movies was $20.
Yeah,
you can go to the movies and get concessions and a ticket for under $20.
Yeah. So that was the thing, is cell phones were $1,000. But if you activated it, paid for the activation, which was $150, and you selected your plan and paid for the first month, and you got the phone for free. So I would tape pennies to the boxes of cell phones. And they'd be like, what's that? I'm like, if you do this and this, that's how much I'm going to buy your phone for you. And people see that $1,000 price tag on a cell phone. They're like, what? So you're going to buy me the phone. All I have to do is select a plan, which I have to do anyway. I'm like, yeah, that's it. You do have to pay for activation. You have to pay for your first month.
Well, yeah, I don't get the penny part, because if they did the activation and they pay for the first month, the phone was free. So they'd basically be paying a penny.
Well, I couldn't tape nothing to the box.
Yeah, but that was a good.
Yeah. I called them penny phones.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we have penny phones here. Like, what?
We don't have $1,000 phone. We have penny phones.
That's a Motorola. That's a StarTAC. That's a
Remember the razors?
This is
the
way
blueberries.
Before that.
No, the blackberries.
We're talking like the first flip phones, like the StarTACs right before that.
I only remember the razors. Like, if I have to think back of phone iterations, I think razor as like the first phone.
I'm going to send you some pictures of the phones we sold.
Or the black phones. You remember the black phones?
Just before that.
Really?
Yeah. Or you mean brick phones?
Brick, black.
It wasn't that long ago. The phones were still about this big, but they were thick depending on the battery.
Okay.
And the better the battery, the thicker the phone. So some people got really thick batteries so they could look like ballers. But I did so well. And if you remember what was going on at that point too, the Bulls were winning championships. Michael Jordan had just come back. So Singular Wireless at the time was our carrier. And I was selling so many phones, all of a sudden the guy was interested in our store. So he came there and he's like, I didn't know how well I was doing because they never kept score, but apparently I was just destroying the district. This guy's giving me Bulls tickets. for phones, and I'm making $80 to $150 a cell phone anyway. Mm-hmm. So now I'm rolling with free Bulls tickets, money that is just, I mean, on top of my job, I'm getting that much money for activating cell phones. So it was a lot of money. And, you know, a guy my age, you're hurting. I'm buying sports cars. I'm buying sports cars. I was paying for my own school at the time, but of course, when you're making $35,000 at that age, working part-time, that's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Why am I going back to school?
Why? There's
no way.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
Yeah, school sucks.
It's only going to get better from here.
This is it for me.
Yeah.
I found my way. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're working 16 hours a week and making that kind of money. It was the kind of money where our managers would ask us to do something. We'd be like, no, it's not happening. You know, and I do feel bad. We did treat some of you guys pretty bad back then, but commission salespeople made a lot of money if they were good, and we just did whatever we wanted.
Yeah, and this was at the time that commission salespeople, they were actually respected.
Yes, it was noble.
It was noble. Mm-hmm. It was the elite status in a at least in the retail environment. But even outside of retail, mm-hmm. right? Even still, I think commission sales. You know, you get a lot of freedom, a lot of autonomy, mm-hmm. Because you're bringing in the revenue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing too, is you had to know what you were talking about, and you had to be the best, mm-hmm. because people were going to go, and there was only a couple places to go, but they were going to go there because everything they were buying was a big purchase. So they're going to do their research much like now, but the only research they had was other salespeople. Mm-hmm. So you had to be better than all of them.
Yeah.
So you had to know your stuff. So we did. We were good. You know, you couldn't mislead a customer, because a return means they take money out of your paycheck.
Yeah.
So you're good, but you're honest. You know, it was actually, we all stigmatized Best Buy, mm-hmm. because they were the first to go without commission. And they were just killing the salesperson because they were paying them nothing. They didn't know what they were talking about, you know, the stigma. But they were selling a ton because of their prices. It's like, what the heck's going on here? And I remember at one point, Best Buy was filing for bankruptcy. And we're all like, oh, thank God. You know, that I'm sick of customers coming in. They have information from somebody. They have no idea what they were talking about. But that was a different leadership. That was a different business model for them. It was stack them high, let them fly, put price tags on things. Mm-hmm. You know, so I stayed in sales. Circuit City owned Carmax at the time. I saw that as the next challenge. And I wanted that. Carmax. It was the next jump up for me. Mm-hmm. So I talked to some people there, met a guy there, Andy Kemp. He's actually pretty much one of my brothers now. Just one of my best friends. Love his family to death. He worked there. And he's just, man, you got to work for me. You got to work for me. And eventually I got there, and it was great. Mm-hmm. I mean, we worked at the same store together. We killed it. It was amazing. Moved to Nashville, helped open a store there. So that was interesting at 21 years old, moving out of state, mm-hmm. You know, new job, new everything. Still not over what happened 2-3 years ago.
Still bearing that, yeah.
Yeah, so you're still kind of just living for the day, mm-hmm. you know, and then you get some dollars in your pocket. So mm-hmm. bad.
And in Nashville.
Yeah, by yourself.
But hey, you're in music, you know, Music City.
It was too wild, but met some great people there.
Yeah.
Some great people, and learned a lot. Okay. Learned a ton by falling on my face.
So then what happened after Nashville? How did you get back to Chicago?
So I came back.
And why?
At 21, when you make horrible decisions and you're tearing yourself apart, mm-hmm. there's only one thing left to do.
What?
Go back home. and straighten things out.
Go home. Yeah.
Go home. Mm-hmm. Because you're safe.
And when you say tearing things up or life falling apart, what do you mean by that? Was that happening in Nashville?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Self-destructive behavior.
Drugs?
Not drugs. A lot of alcohol. Just too much.
Yeah.
Way too much. Because, you know, if you're not working, you're thinking. Mm-hmm. If you're thinking, you're hurting. And then you don't have your friends around you. Yeah. And all you have are memories of home. And the memories of home are what you just lost.
Yeah.
So after work, you have to get rid of those memories. Mm. You have to You have to get them out of your head. Plus you're scared. You are scared. You have to do well out there. You have a plan. But you're 21 and you're a male, so you're not driven by your plans yet. You're driven by your experiences and your thoughts. Mm-hmm. So that all drove me more than what I wanted to do in life. It was like, how do I get this out of my head? Mm-hmm. How do I get this horrible feeling out of my head? So just not the right decisions, not anything responsible, because it's like I could dig myself out of any hole just by working really hard a couple days. That's just how it was. Mm-hmm. Like if I got myself in trouble with money, all I had to do was work hard for a couple days and I'd make it right back. So I came home and I went back to Circuit City. And I knew I didn't want to do that long. And I started going back to school a little bit. But now I had more bills. Mm-hmm. So now I needed more money. Mm-hmm. So school became very...
Second seat.
Yeah, and almost a waste of time. Mm-hmm. And I'm paying for it. So you start doing some soul searching there and you're like, this isn't cutting it. I got to get my job going first. Mm-hmm. This is what a lot of people do. Let me get this going and then I'll go back to school. Let me get this going and then I'll go do that. So I came back to Nashville from Nashville with nothing. Absolutely nothing. Except, no, it was nothing. It was pretty much nothing. So I came back just basically with, I have to pick up where I left off, learn from that, and figure out something. Yeah. Because now 3 years have gone by. And you're like, what did I do with that 3 years? I have 2 sports cars. It's like, what else did I do? So after losing everything, being down to 1 sports car, I had to regroup. So I went back to Circuit City. Knew I didn't want to do it long. Everything felt grimy at that point too. It's like, oh my God, this is just getting out of hand. And I've been here for 3-4 years now and I'm not going anywhere. I'm going backwards. Mm-hmm. So I actually went to a place called Tweeter, which was United Audio. I had some friends that worked there that were like, this is high-end speakers, high-end audio, high-end video. You're not making anything over there. You come here.
What are we talking about? Marantz, Martin Logan?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, at Krell. I mean, Pioneer Elite. Mm-hmm. A plasma TV was $20,000.
Oh my God. Panasonic plasmas?
Yeah. No, they had a 43-inch Pioneer Elite monitor. $19,000 on clearance when I was interviewing there. I was like, oh my gosh, if I sell one of those.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm rich.
I'm going back to Nashville. Pick up my dignity. So I interviewed there and it went well and I ended up going there. And I think my interview day there is when everything kind of hit me. I had a car. It was a piece of junk. I drove it to my interview. Halfway there, a bunch of stuff blew out on it. It just wasn't going. The power steering went, the transmission went, and I was in a suit jacket in July trying to push my car to a gas station so I could call and be like, on my third interview.
Yeah, because you had to go to a gas station to get to the phone.
Gosh, my third interview. My final one. I can't believe this is happening.
Did you make it?
Somebody picked me up. It was my boss. Because I called him like, you're not going to believe this.
Yeah.
And he's like, where are you? And I told him. And he's like, I'm coming to get you. But I thought he was basically just wanted to check my story. Sweating through my suit.
Was that what he wanted to do?
I thought it was, but he came and got me. We went to a restaurant, sat down, joking. And he's just like, man, you're a mess. And I'm like,
shout out to that boss.
Yeah. It
Shout out to that boss.
He's like, wow, this is bad. And I'm like, this is not going well. And he's like, yeah, it's like your final meal. So I'm thinking he's just treating me to a meal. He's like, so can you start tomorrow? I was like, I'll find a way there. So that started. It went really well there for me. Met a lot of good friends there, of course. But it did go really well. Again, back in control of my own destiny. Making as much money as I wanted to. If I wanted to go in on my days off and make money, do it. You work when you want. So that was working. Best Buy started this thing called the Berry Project. And I think it was about 2003. Oh,
is this the customer profiles, the persona?
Yes.
Okay.
So apparently the gentleman was scouting our location for another person. And I guess overheard me with a customer. And then 2 days later was calling Tweeter wanting to talk to me. Just, hey, you need to come talk to me about a job. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Bothering me. And then he's like, just sit down and have lunch with me. He's like, it's a great opportunity. I need somebody like you. And I'm like, I need to know what you're talking about first. He wouldn't tell me where he was from. Then he goes, big blue box, big yellow tag. And I was like, oh, no. No way. Are you out of your mind? I'm like, I'm making a lot of money here.
At that time, would the equivalent, like the comparison would be you're working at Twitter and now you're trying to get, they're recruiting you from Best Buy to work there in the high-end Magnolia section. Mm-hmm. Would that be equivalent to maybe like working at Best Buy now and then Amazon trying to recruit? Like, what's the comparison to this?
They didn't have Magnolia yet. They didn't have it yet? No. This was the project leading into Magnolia.
Okay. Because is Best Buy at that time considered better? Mm-mm. Is it considered like the Walmart?
It was the joke.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Like if somebody came in and they're like, yeah, I was looking at some speakers. I was at Best Buy. We'd be like, oh my God, sit down.
Really?
I have to unlearn you. Well, remember at the time, all they had was like Klipsch and JBL. And, you know, I have $24,000 speakers.
True. Okay.
And, I'm like, I'm going to have to unlearn you everything you heard over there. This is a different ball game.
Yeah.
And now they're telling me, and they didn't pay commission.
Yeah,
so they didn't. You can't pay me. You can't do it. It's not possible. And then eventually it was one of those things where, well, I have to hear what you have to say. So I did go sit down and I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So now I'm like, okay, this is big. I knew through the grapevine that Magnolia was like one of the biggest home theater stores, one of the best. And I heard Best Buy was trying to buy them. And I was like, no. Oh my God, that must be what they're doing.
And which is why they were recruiting you.
And I didn't know because they wouldn't say.
Right.
But they were talking about the project. And I was like, this is Magnolia. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? Who told you that? And I'm like, I have to know my business at this other place. Like, I have to know my competitors. I've read in a magazine somewhere. And he's like, what magazine? I'm like, so I knew I was onto something. Now I was interested. I wanted to see where this was going. So, a bunch of us from Twitter got hired. Mm-hmm. And they made it worth our while. Because it was the start of something different. And that was the change. We did the Berry project. Imagine selling Magnolia style with no Magnolia stuff. We went in there with what they had, which was worlds apart different. They didn't have the stuff they have now. Mm-hmm. They didn't have the stuff they had when you came along. Mm-hmm. Tweeter had stuff that Best Buy couldn't touch. And I had to take what I was doing and use their equipment. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oof, this is hard. This is really hard. But it happened. We did it. We were in Naperville. We were one of the best test stores. Mm-hmm. So we were one of the first Magnolias. So I had been there for a year when my boss came in and he was a little tipsy and he's like, I got to tell you something. We got Magnolia. We got the first one. I was like, awesome. So it was really cool. So there I was in Magnolia. And that's where I met you. But that's how I got there. It was a long road.
So tell me, okay, so now you're at Best Buy. Mm-hmm. You're still making good money because Best Buy pays well. I think as a company overall, they pay well. They treat their employees well.
Yeah.
But it's retail. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the part that is really hard for at least people. Like at that time, I was a mom. Mm-hmm. I was working full time. My husband was working full time, also retail. And you have no outside life, your kids and the schedules, because you're basically on somebody else's schedule all the time. You don't know what you're going to be. You don't know your schedule 3 weeks in advance. Right. You don't know your schedule 2 weeks in advance half the time. And we're not working like a 9 to 4 every day. You are working like a 10 to 7, 11 to 8. And that's just the schedule, not including anything above and beyond if you actually care about your job.
Or if you're
which
good.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Right? Mm-hmm. So we're putting in, basically giving everything. Mm-hmm. And that's important. Yeah. I think from that lens, I learned so much there. More so than I learned in college, for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't mean this as a put down on my college. I just mean that there is no substitute for working experience, and there is no substitute for being able to get in and understand how a business operates and how it functions and the requirements that it takes to maintain every single day. And that's what I learned there.
Yeah, I would tell people, if you're in business and you want to get into the number side of things, and you're going to work a job while you're doing that, that was the place to do it.
Yeah.
I think, I definitely, it was like getting another 4-year degree.
Yeah.
Being in leadership there, having to, deal with controllable costs, uncontrollable costs, how much money something costs if it's sitting in this little section for 6 days over, when it should have been gone, how much it's actually costing you per day.
Yeah. Or doing those monthly P&Ls.
Oh my gosh.
Or even just understanding margin and how to train your employees to bring in the right revenue or sell the right product.
Maximizing the hours you have. Like when you talked about not having time, this is one of those backwards things where we were always told, put your best people during the peak hours. So it was almost like, well, you got to be fair about it. Well, no, because remember, the economy took a dive in 08. So now we lost a ton of people. I mean, in audio and video, I used to work with like 60 people. And we had like 4 supervisors, 3, what did they call it? Seniors, 4 area managers, down to what I was doing. Like what I ended up doing when I left, we had like three or 4 managers, 4 supervisors, and 4 seniors. That's the leadership structure when I left, or when I got there versus when I left. It was just what I was doing, but we had a lot more employees too, because money was just coming in. So when everything in 08 happened, we had to do more with less. So now I didn't get to be completely judicious with the hours. I had to take the best people and put them at the best times, and often that meant a punishment, really. I mean, think about it. Fridays, weekends. I had to put my best people there. So I'm having to make a decision to tear into people's weekends. So I had to be fair, but that's hard. When you're doing it on paper too, you're like, okay, I have to hit this budget. And even if I'm above budget, I'm going to have to answer as to why I had these 3 people in on a Saturday at 4:00, at the next supervisor's meeting. Where was this person? Where was this person?
Yeah.
You got to let them have a life, and that was never the answer.
Right.
So that was hard to deal with, but it made you think too. It made you thinking, I can't punish my good people, because that's whether you like it or not, that's what you're doing. When you're taking them away, they could love their job and they could be good at it. But when you're asking them to close Friday, close Saturday, open to close Sunday, you're killing them. So that's hard on you as a boss too. Like, they're doing so well for me, but at what point are they going to be done with me if I keep doing this? But if you don't do it, you're going to answer for it. But definitely a degree working there and doing all that. You learned so much. You learned so much.
You know what I remember? We would do Magnolia, and he trained me. I didn't know anything about anything audio, video.
You told me you hated TVs.
Oh, yeah.
I looked at Rich, I go,
what the hell?
This is what he would do to me. He would hire somebody that knew nothing, hated it, wanted to work in video games, and he'd be like, here's your new employee.
I learned.
What are you doing?
I became really good.
Yeah.
I was very intelligent on the business and the product after a while. But I started with nothing. I knew I had no background, and of which, you were so helpful for that part. And I remember we have a love for 90s music. We have a love. We like the same type of music.
Yeah.
And that, I think, so when you're there Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays and Wednesdays, right? The only thing we would do, this is how we would brighten up, is just put on some Journey. We would put on some Shakira. We would put on some Mariah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. We had a field day. And that was, I think, for me, that helps get you through. It just brightened. For me, music lifts me.
Same.
And it was enough.
Yeah.
And
that's pretty much what it was. It was enough.
Yeah. And you get to work with good people and have conversation and just have real talk and share real life.
That's the things you're going through that make it deeper than the people you met in college and the people you met in high school. And we sat here and talked about how we didn't have time for all that stuff. And I know people are doing that right now and they're shaking their heads. Yeah, I have no time, But when I had no time is when I chose to go back to school. full time. Mm-hmm. So I was running appliances, Magnolia, and home theater. And that's when I decided to go back to college full time. And that sounds crazy. But I knew if I didn't do it that way, I wasn't going to do it. Mm-hmm. Plus, Grace was pushing me. I mean, if it weren't for her, I know I'd probably be dead. Or I'd still be like swinging from the rafters at Best Buy, doing something crazy, just waiting for my time to come for retirement. Because that's what it started to feel like after a while. Because I knew I wasn't giving everything I had. And I think Rich was really key in letting me know that. I think he was low-key telling me I needed to do something bigger.
Rich Ferraro is our old boss.
Yes. He actually put my 2 weeks in. He shook his head and he goes, I'm glad I had you as long as I did. Instead of trying to fight me.
Yeah.
He's like, he said it was only a matter of time before you figured out you could do something bigger.
Yeah.
I'm like, so you let me do this for 9 years? It was cool to see that.
Yeah.
It was cool to see that.
And he's a great guy.
Yeah.
I want him on the show.
I know. He's awesome. I got to be on that one too. Put some glasses on him. God, that would be a good show.
Yeah.
That would be a good one. But I remember what got me is district staff was in one day, and I don't want to say who it was, but it was somebody talking about future and development. And I wanted to see if it was lip service, because that's the one thing I learned in management there is they did a good job of making you feel like they overvalued you. And you were lucky to have that spot. And I saw a lot of people stressing about that. Oh my God. If I don't get this, I'm going to lose this job. I'm going to get demoted. I'm never going to get... And I started to take notice of that. Mm-hmm. That was happening to me too. And I'm like, but this isn't my peak. So why do I feel this way? And I noticed that they would train you and teach you to network and use, great business acumen to start great conversations and show that you know what you're talking about. But then they'd make sure that they put you right back in that place. This is your place. And you're lucky to be in that place. So don't look too far ahead. Mm-hmm. And it was somebody talking about personal development. Somebody saying, even if your best is outside of this, I want to help you. I said, I do have a question for you since you've been through it. I said, I've always wanted to go back to school. And my wife's been telling me, you've got to do it or you'll hate yourself if you don't finish. I'll support you. I'll help you. I'll be there for you. Just do what you got to do because you're not going to be happy until you finish. And I said, would a degree help me at this job? Maybe. You don't need it. I go, I know that, but would it help me? And I saw that person thinking of a way to tell me they didn't want me to go to school because they knew that would mean less time at work. I saw them toying with that. So it was at that point I knew at least that particular person who I valued didn't have my best interests.
Was it possible that they were saying or thinking or saying no based off of the reality that maybe a degree isn't going to benefit you the way that you think?
No.
Because from my lens, I don't think you need I don't think you need a degree.
You don't. But for what I was asking, in wanting to move up into the business and the numbers part of it, there is absolutely no way I would get into corporate and beat somebody who had an MBA.
I disagree.
From what I was asking, that was the conversation.
Got it. Okay.
And some of those positions, it's a requirement, not an MBA, but a bachelor's is a requirement.
So I do actually, yes, you're right. Yeah. A lot of employers traditionally have required, masters or bachelors, I think out of just legacy, traditional hiring practices.
It thins the herd is what it is. And you know what I learned?
I think it's come away from that significantly.
It has, but in some places it still is kept there for a simpler reason. And they want to see if you're going to finish something you start. Because these days, everybody started college, but not too many people have finished.
It's a good point.
So I've learned that through moving away from that world is, why do I need this degree? Because I knew less at my other job than I had coming in here. And it's flatly, I want to see if you're a quitter. We want to see if we get thousands of applications. The number one thing is I can't have people who give up. So we thin the herd by putting that into place.
Got it. Okay.
The positions that I wanted, I already knew by looking at them that my bachelor's degree was a minimum expectation. So when I asked about that, I felt like I was being, and there were other things that went into it, and I don't want to give away too much because that person will know who I'm talking about. But I was being sold as to why I should stay where I'm at. And that I'd actually be doing a disservice to myself by finishing, because it would take my mind away from what I was currently doing in Magnolia. And remember, at the time, we were number 1 in the district at that time. I think the month I left, we were like number 5 throughout, like out of the 1,500 stores. The home appliance in Magnolia, it was the highest I've ever seen us. It was 2. And when I left, I think it was 5. And, they were in and talking. And I was like, okay, the next step, I think they want me to be a manager. I never wanted to be a manager. 60 hours a week. It would have been a linear pay. It would have been a sideways lateral move for me pay wise, but
more work, more commitment. Yeah.
And Grace was like, I can't have an absent father. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
It was then that I knew I had to at least do myself the solid. So that was the day I made the decision. And Grace and I went to the school. We had a meeting. We went to a restaurant. And I said, this is it. I'm doing it.
You're doing it.
Did it. Yep. Full time.
School.
Yeah.
Do you regret it?
No.
Do you love it?
Yes. I want to tell people, when you say I don't have time, it's completely BS.
What
Especially
school?
Now. I went to DeVry.
Okay.
At first, back then it was like, oh my God, you can't do that. That's a for profit. And it's this, it's not about that. It's about starting and finishing. And when you're this age, you need self-paced. You need that. You can't stop what you're doing and go to a university. You're a father, you're married, you're a manager. You can't do that. I got more out of that than when I went to Joliet Junior College. And when I went to, COD, I got way more out of it because this is my time. I have to learn this stuff in this time because I have to work.
Do you think that because you're a father, because you had those other experiences, maybe that helped focus that and make it a priority for you to get something out of it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And now it was for real.
Yeah.
This is my last chance.
This is it.
I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
And I only have these 3 hours today to get it done.
Right.
So you get it done. And having no time, I mean, when I got into medical, I was still finishing school. Somebody took a chance on me, thank God. And I was in the operating room learning. I was in cases constantly. And I still had deadlines to meet for school. And Grace had just given birth to Miranda. And for some stupid reason, I decided to put hardwood floors in my house. So you have to reprioritize. You have to just say, I'm going to do it. If you take 3 hours out of your day, just 3, you could do it. You could do it full time. If you want to do it part time,
easily,
you could do it. Okay. So there's a lot of people that, oh man, the time has passed me by. Oh, it passed me by. It didn't. You'll do so much better now because it's on you.
Yeah.
Like, there's pressure, and you don't feel that pressure. You actually get excited. Like, oh my gosh, this is an interesting chapter. Let me take some note. Like, you're so much more responsible. And again, you're paying for it. When that first bill comes, you do some more soul searching. Oh my God, that's a big check. Do I do this again next semester? And when you see your grades, if you're doing it right, the answer is yes. So I'm glad I did. I'm really glad I did. And I think if what's stopping you, I don't think everybody needs a degree. I don't. But if you want it, it's there.
Don't let the fear stop you.
Right. Because it's you that's in the way. It's not time. It's not. It's you. You're either scared, you're afraid to start it because you're afraid you won't finish, or you truly think you're overloaded now. And you might be, but add that onto it. It might make you better. Like, oh my God, I got to reprioritize. I got to be smarter. I got to be better. I got to work more efficiently. Yeah. It'll make you better.
How long were you in school?
So I only needed to finish 2 years at the time. So I did it for a solid 2 years. I did cut my last semester back a little bit because I was in the operating room more and traveling a lot.
An operating room, you mean your current work?
Yeah. So my dream was to sell in the medical field. That's what I wanted to do. But I didn't want to just do it in offices or clinic. I didn't want to be a knock on the door type person. But you need to have that skill. So I did leave the very nice paying job at Best Buy for Rico, which sold copiers, making less than half of that, but a chance to make more with commission because I knew People hate copier salesmen. It's hard. The average turnaround at that is 90 days. So where I got hired, it was 90 days. People were leaving. Just boom, boom, boom. It was horrible.
Yeah.
But I knew if I did well, and I put that on my resume, when I go to a big-time medical firm,
they would value that.
Yeah, because I don't have a nursing degree. I don't have medical school, and it's later in life. Mm-hmm. So I need to take the hard route.
Yeah.
So...
And that is the hard route. That is not easy.
Yeah, I had no choice.
Not easy.
I could have stayed in school. I could have taken some more medical courses, but now we're talking another 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. How long do I wait? I have to go now. So I took the harder but shorter route, and it did work out. I heard somebody talking about stem cells, which was something I liked, sports medicine and, you know, regenerative medicine and things like that. And I called him. And I said, "Are you done interviewing?" He's like, "Who is this?" And I'm like, "Don't worry about it. Do you have time to interview me? I'm your guy. He's like, "Well, I guess. I mean, can you meet me at Panera?" So I met him at Panera.
Oh, Panera sounds so good right now.
It really does. Met him there, and we talked for a while, and he interviewed like 65 people. And he's like, You're a copier salesman. You're a salesman. You have no medical background." And I was just like, the thing is you keep talking about your science nerds. Can you teach your science nerd? Can you teach them to sell? He's like, "Oh." I'm like, "Okay, well, you can teach me to be a science nerd, but I already know how to sell."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh." And next thing you know, I'm in a flight to Boston. I'm in a limo, meeting with...
You're big time now.
It was scary because it happened overnight, literally. You know, I remember staying up till 3 a.m. studying and, you know, getting my medical term. I took medical terminology classes and stuff like that, but,
yeah,
you know, I wasn't in lab or anything. And all of a sudden I go from, you know, selling a copier and running to Panera to tell a guy you need to hire me.
Why he should hire you.
To I'm in a suit in Boston with 6 C-levels hammering me for 8 hours with questions. And I'm like, I'm not going to survive. I remember telling Grace, I'm not going to survive this. I'm going to die here. Because they literally, I got on a limo, got on a plane, got in a limo, and got in a plane back home the same day to Boston. So it was like insane. One of the coolest experiences ever. This was down between me and one guy. And I didn't know that at the time. And they hammered me. But I ended up in the office with the CEO at the end. And that's when I was like, hey, I'm just happy to be here. And I made it this far. If this doesn't work, I could say, this is pretty freaking cool. I got this far. And that's where I sprung the same thing on him. And he's a super cool guy. His name's Don Brown. Mm-hmm. Super awesome. I still keep in touch with him too. He said, so tell me. He's like, I know you got hammered out there. He's like, just talk to me. He's like, what's the best sale you ever made? And I pulled out a picture of Grace. And I said, I talked her into marrying me.
And his wife is just the sweet. Grace is the perfect name for her.
It really is.
Because she is, I think, like, everybody's saving Grace.
Yeah. I mean, like, she does trip over things and fall and run into doorways, which is interesting.
Watch it.
But.
Watch it.
She's got scars everywhere from that. But truly, like, amazing. But I wasn't lying. So it wasn't a bit.
No.
I said that. I was done with answering the questions. I was done with being stuffy.
Yeah.
So I was just like, yeah, that. Look, I talked, and he laughed. He's like, dude, I say the same thing all the time. And we just started going, and he pulls out 2 cigars and I'm looking at my clock, and I'm like, I'm going to miss my flight. He's like, I'm the CEO. He's like, we'll get you a flight.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, either he's going to tell me, I get it, you're older now, and you really gave this a shot, you know, and I appreciate that. But you haven't graduated school yet, and you know that's a requirement. And keep going. You know, I thought I was going to get the pat on the back, the, hey, I love you. But I didn't care at that point. I was so happy, and I was tired from getting hammered by his other folks that I was just letting it fly with him, you know, and we were just laughing and having a good time. And he goes, well, you know, my HR lady, she says you need a degree to work here. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. And he's like, so why are you even here? What made you think you could come all the way to here? I'm like, because I'm going to finish. I'm like, you saw my wife. You see my daughter. Like, you see what I'm doing. You see what I gave up. I wouldn't do that to give up now.
Right.
Like, I'm here
Yeah,
because I'm not going to stop. Yeah. And he just said, "Trust me, you're going to finish." I said, "Well, I'm going to finish whether."
Was he talking about school?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm gonna finish whether I promise you or not. I'm like, it's gonna happen. So.
And that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think he was gonna hire me, and I was like, okay, he's gonna tell me, call me in 6 months.
Yeah. Call me when you finish.
Yeah. So I got on the plane, and I did tell Grace. I actually cried. I'm like, I did it. I did the best I could. I'm like, they put their books away, and we were just talking, like they weren't writing down. I'm like, I left it out there, and that's all I could have hoped for. I got this far.
Were you proud of yourself at that moment? Did you feel defeated?
No, I cried because
You felt happy cry?
Yeah, because I couldn't believe it happened better than it could have. Okay. And I told her, I'm like, Grace, they put their books down. They stopped writing stuff down, and we were just talking, and we had the best time.
They treated me like a human.
Yeah.
Like I'm normal.
Yeah, and one guy flat out said, he's like, I have to redo the way I think about interviews because of this. He's like, this was really good. And I think it was like maybe a week later, I was down in the dumps. I hadn't heard back. Kicking the copier at the copier place.
Stupid Rico.
I guess I gotta get this proposal out, and somebody broke their printer and they need more ink.
Yeah.
And I got the call. I'm like, this is all right, kid, we'll talk to you later. And he's like, you're my guy. It's not gonna be a sexy paycheck.
Okay.
Like, I don't care. Like, what do you think I'm making here?
Yeah.
He's like, I want to do this. Let's do it. I'm like, well, how are you going to? He's like, I own the company. Don't worry about it. He's like, but you have to finish. He's like, I'm going to check every month to make sure you're enrolled until you finish. And he's like, the second you're not enrolled, I don't care if I gave you too much and you're taking a month off. He's like, I got to let you go. He's like, because I got to stick to this rule. I got to stick to this industry rule.
Okay.
And I said, okay, that's great. So I literally was like, bye, Felicia.
Yeah, bye, Felicia.
F this copier. Like, I hate copiers anyway. I don't even know what that thing does. Like, get out of here. So that was exciting. But it was all learning in the operating room.
Yeah.
It's literally like college. You don't just, here's some training and now you can go sell stuff. I had to do 2 years working cases. I was probably in 750 surgical cases before I could be a rep. Spines, feet, ankles, faces, like some really crazy stuff. So what I'm doing now is I am in orthopedics. So sports medicine, growth factors and healing and things like that. So it's pretty cool. But it's funny when you get where you think you wanted to go, something else happens.
So what else happens? It's okay. Do you like what you're doing now?
I do.
And are you fulfilled in terms of growth and professional achievement? Is there still more that you really just want to accomplish professionally?
There's more, because I didn't go to the prestigious schools that my colleagues did. I was rooming with guys that got cellular biology degrees from Notre Dame and people that went to Stanford and, they're on their 4th degree. And, I'm like, worked at Best Buy.
Yeah, Tweeter.
Hey. Best Buy University, we had that, you know. So my growth path takes longer, but I'm still on it, which is great. When I got the rep job just this last summer, that's like a brotherhood. You're in. Now you can do this for the rest of your life. But I'm at the beginning part. So I have a little bit of ways to go. But you get that feeling of, oh my gosh, I did it. Everybody said you're not going to do it anyway.
You've accomplished.
So I did it.
Yeah.
I'm there. But now I have to learn how to be that and be good at that. So that's going to take some time.
So explain that to me. So now you're in a position that you're happy.
Yeah.
You've achieved a level of success you never thought you would. You're working in an industry you've always wanted to work in, and you obtained the job that you really wanted with room to grow. So it's not like you're at the pinnacle. There's no, downhill slope right now. It's like I'm here and I still have room to grow and I'm good. What does life look like now at that point?
It's so funny because it breaks it back down to the basic. It's like people always say, find something you love and do it. And I'd always be like, that person obviously doesn't pay bills.
Yeah.
You have to pay your bills. So you have to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
I don't love it, but I need this. But that shows in your work, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
Being fulfilled really changes everything. Changes your perspective about everything else.
Yeah.
life, what's fun, what's important, your hobbies. You know, it literally, it's like a year ago I figured it out.
Let's talk about your hobbies.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your interesting hobbies.
So I had my house broken into.
Yeah.
While I was in it. And
tell us a story.
Okay, so I had a surgical case that day that got canceled. And I was working on some things in my office in my boxers, and it was 8:20 in the morning, and I hear a loud explosion.
And we're in the suburbs.
Yeah.
So we're like, relatively safe area.
Mm-hmm. Statistically, this doesn't happen.
Statistically, it doesn't happen in our area.
Yeah, I told
Kids
the guy
are getting
that.
Off to school. Yeah. Or, bus. We don't live far from each other. We're about 10 minutes away, but relatively similar neighborhoods.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I did tell the guy that statistically he was in the wrong neighborhood, but that didn't work. He was still in my house.
Wait, what? Oh. Is that a joke?
It was.
That I didn't get.
Because people still tell me that. They're like, well, statistically, that wasn't supposed to happen. I was like, but it did. Like, it happens.
Got it.
And if you're going to kick in somebody's door, it is going to be in a more affluent neighborhood. It's not going to be in a bad part because you're not going to risk going to jail for 20 years for stealing a plant.
Yeah.
You're going to go where you think there's money.
Yeah. So, and
at the time, Grace and I didn't have that many bills, and we were doing pretty well. So we had some nice cars and really nice furniture, and and I think they must have scouted us because 8:45 in the morning on a Monday, somebody kicked my door in. I thought it was Grace because when she's late, she'll run in the house and the door will kind of slam behind her, and I thought she forgot her lunch. So I walked downstairs in my boxers, and there's a guy standing in my house.
Was Miranda here?
She's not there.
No, okay. Mm-hmm. This is just when it's you two.
Yeah, and it was right before Miranda came, like maybe 2 months.
Okay, so Grace is pregnant.
Yeah, but she's gone. Thank God.
Okay.
She just left.
She's gone.
Thank God. So it wasn't registering with me, and that's the thing that people don't understand is, well, I would have just called somebody, or I would have done this. You don't know what you're going to do. You freeze because you've never been in that situation, so nothing is registering.
Mm-hmm.
So I see my door blown open with splinters everywhere, and it's not registering. I'm like, what the hell am I looking at?
Yeah, like, what is this?
Why is that? It's not computing. There's a guy in my kitchen seeing me.
Look at the door?
Yeah. If he wanted to kill me, I was dead. Because I didn't see him at first. Because, again, God. I'm not looking for somebody in my house.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why there's splinters of wood everywhere. And I look back and the guy's in my kitchen, and he jumps off my deck and hightails it. And I'm an idiot, and I chase him. Because, again, you just don't know what you're going to do. So, thank God they didn't have the baby there. Thank God Grace wasn't there. Thank God he didn't have hate in his heart, that day. Thank you or anything. If that guy had it out for us, nobody was going to help us. So who's responsible for my wife's safety? Or my kid? Or my dog? It's me.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be responsible for it. So I thought a lot about it, and when you become a father, especially of a little girl like that, like something happened a couple months after that. We were changing her diaper outside in our truck, and somebody approached us very aggressively, asking for a lighter, and I'm like, we don't smoke. And he's like, I didn't ask if you smoked, and he kind of charged at us, but I got aggressive with him right back, and he went away. But I'm like, my God, this is broad daylight, and we're targets. We're young. We have a baby. We're targets. Everybody's a target. There's evil out there. We have to protect ourselves. And so I started learning about it. I started training with it, doing a lot of research on just how to safely protect my family, protect my house, protect my kids. And it just became an outlet for me. Like after work, get into it, read about it, do some research on it, and then kind of learn.
And when you say it, do you mean
all of it? Like my Second Amendment rights and what I need to do to protect my family, and how often does this happen? Because you always hear it doesn't happen, but it happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now that everybody has this Ring thing and they sign up for their apps, how often are we seeing Ring videos with people trying to break into people's houses?
Mm-hmm.
We had just this winter, 5 times in our neighborhood, somebody tried to invade a house. So home invasions are happening constantly. We always hear about it. Doesn't end well a lot. So that happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, well, all the things I've been told don't happen statistically are happening.
They're happening
every day, every single day, and then, seeing that Grace is a target. A woman with 3 small children is the number one target. Okay, well, she's got to protect herself. So that's what I mean. It's like a ball of it. It's like protecting yourself, responsible, teaching, training, because it has to be all of it. You can't just say, I want this because the government's going to tell me I can't have it. I don't want people like that. So when people are like, I want a gun. It's like, why? Well, because the government's going to take them away. I'm like, okay, well, you're an idiot. You shouldn't have one. I don't want to help you. I don't want to train you. I don't want to help. No, it's not going to happen. But when somebody's like, I had my house broken into, or my neighbor did, and okay, well, tell me more. How are you going to store it? Do you know how to shoot it? What do you like? Take them out and let them shoot, and see if they're comfortable. They might talk themselves out of it. But just things like that, you see the spike when things happen, or when elections come around, and somebody's always like, we're going to take away your Second Amendment right. You see a huge spike in purchases, because when somebody says you can't have it,
you want it.
Everybody wants
go get it. Yeah.
So right now, everybody's buying them.
Guns, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
As a gun owner, that doesn't excite me. It scares me, because I don't know if you're good with it. I don't know if you're trained with it. And the last thing I want is somebody that doesn't know and that's not trained. I don't want them waving one around.
And you don't want Miranda going to somebody's house and they have a gun and they don't know how to use it, or properly or improperly storing it.
Correct. So it's almost like...
But you are still an advocate for gun.
Yes.
Purchasing, right?
I'm an advocate for the right. So I don't think everybody should go out and get one. But I think that it's important that the rights we have are preserved. Because in a case like that, you are responsible for your family. Nobody else is.
No one else is.
No. So 6 to 7 minutes before a cop shows up, it's over. But the right to say, okay, I am going to be the one to defend my house, you should have that choice. But you need to go out and get trained. You need to make sure you know your way around it.
Is that what you offer in your side business? Is gun training, gun safety?
It's more information and outlets on where to get it.
Okay.
And where to get the right piece for you. Things like that. So it's good because some people will ferret themselves out. You're right. I just wanted to shoot one a couple times. I don't want it. I don't want to devote the time to it. It's not for me. But that's how it should be.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be somebody saying, nope, you don't get one. Okay, well, are you going to come protect my house 24 hours a day?
Right.
Or, no, but you don't get one. It shouldn't be that way. When you look at what's happening with guns right now, it's so socioeconomical. It's not, it's not the guns themselves, because there's so many more legal gun owners in affluent neighborhoods. But that's not where all the gun crime is. But that's who's being affected by all the restrictions. So it's backwards. But I do want to limit the amount of people that just go buy. I mean, there's so many people. Government says I can't have it. I'm going to go get one. So it stays in your closet for 20 years. Is it loaded? Where are you keeping it? What are you doing? So it became a hobby to put them together and care for them and maintain them and talk to people about them.
What's your favorite gun?
I don't know if I have a favorite.
Do you have a favorite type of gun? Maybe do you like the handgun? Do you like the rifle? I'm
a better shot with the rifle.
Okay.
Everybody's a better shot with the rifle because you get to secure it against yourself, steady it with both hands, and kind of put your body into it. Handguns, they're great for concealment, but I'm a horrible shot with them. Holding your hand out like this.
And they're heavy.
They are.
And then they actually, the recoil, I feel like, is a lot. Well, the shotgun too, but the recoil for the handgun, it's just harder for me to control.
You're not buttressing the gun or anything, so it's rough.
Yeah.
But also in a home defense situation, think about that. Hold your cup of coffee out in front of you.
Yeah.
While you're scared. This is what you're doing. Yeah. Yeah. So that's part of some of the things we think about.
Yeah.
Are you defending your home only? Yes. Okay. Who's going to be defending the home? Is it going to be your wife when you're gone? Okay. She's going to need something very light.
So then what is it how do you guys, share this with amongst each other, you and Grace? Was she on board as well after that incident? Was that pretty much yep, we're doing this?
Yeah. I mean, we both agreed with the right. We just chose not to, exercise our right. But after that, that didn't make us say, we need a gun. But it made us say, okay, we both know how to use one. Maybe it's time that one of us has one here responsibly, and we could, kind of protect ourselves. It didn't make us run to the store. It took, I'd say, another 2-3 years before we actually purchased one.
Okay.
So we took our time, did a lot of research, did a lot of thinking, what ifs, a lot of what ifs. Do I want it in my bedroom? Do I want it here?
Yeah.
A lot of this.
And how do you guys deal with it with the kids? Do the kids know that you guys have one?
So at their age, especially Miranda, I make sure she knows about them at a basic level, and I make sure she understands what the business end of it is.
What do you mean?
The business end is the barrel.
Oh, okay.
So that way,
the business end. Okay.
Yeah. So that way she understands that is to never be pointed at anybody.
Mm.
So even if somebody is playing with a Nerf gun, I call it trigger discipline. She has it. She keeps her finger off the trigger and she keeps the muzzle down. It looks like she's clearing a house. It's quite funny. They have a Nerf gun and I saw her. She's got it pinned to her chest with the barrel down. She's like, Daddy, where's Cannon? I'm like, oh. She's like, clear.
You're using proper form.
Yeah. And even the boys, they have Nerf guns and they hold it off to the side instead of pointing it at each other.
Really?
So the only thing I concentrate with them is seeing the form.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Again, I don't show them everything. And at 3, I don't want to put one in their hand and be like, yeah.
Yeah.
No. But I want them to understand that the trigger is hot and the barrel is the no-no end. To understand that those are the 2 important parts of it. And they're never to touch either one. And never to, But Miranda, she understands what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I need her to understand you never touch these heavy ones. Ever.
Ever.
Right. But even with your play gun, don't you ever point it at anybody. Ever. And if I see it happening, I'm going to...
then how's she supposed to shoot them? No.
She's got
to... No, it's a Nerf...
Hold this L. I said, hold this L so you don't hold the other L. Okay? So that's the rule is, and I tell her this way, I said, that end never goes towards anything unless you're willing for that thing to never exist again.
Okay.
So whether it be a bird...
Yeah, poor Miranda. She's just trying to play Nerf guns, and you're giving her a whole lecture on good protocol.
Give her a Nerf shank. I said, drop your gun and pull your shank. But it's more important than the game. It's like it's more important than the game of aiming your Nerf gun at somebody and shooting them. I'd rather them have targets with the Nerf guns than shooting each other. So I always say, don't shoot your brother. Don't shoot your sister.
Yeah, aim at the target.
Right.
Do the bullseye thing.
Right.
At the can.
And the only reason I gave them Nerf guns is because that's an everyday toy. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to introduce them to firearms. They're kids and they want them.
Like them, yeah.
But I have to make sure they understand that the act of pointing and pulling a trigger is serious.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard at this age to let them be a kid. You got to let kids be kids.
Mm-hmm.
I say that with politics all the time too. You got to let kids be kids. But you got to let kids be kids with this stuff too, and slowly teach them what the real thing is. And you got to do that with anything, whether it be toy cars and their bikes. But this is important too, But it is a right. And the thing is you don't know as an outsider how much I love my family and how much I want to protect my family. It's not a bad thing, but it doesn't matter to you as much. So you're not going to be at my house when something happens like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's other people you have to protect. Well, I do. It's my job and it's my right. I'm going to protect them. So that's kind of where I come from. I want people to be educated. I want them to be responsible, but I want them to understand that it's a right and it's my right. Like I don't get in your house and tell you what to do. Don't come to mine. If you're uncomfortable with them, don't come to my house. I just say, hey, I want to get together with you, but let's do it somewhere else, maybe my house, because I'm really uncomfortable with the gun being in the house.
And you're fine with that.
I love that. If you're uncomfortable with that, tell me. That's great. I tell everyone when they come over, I'm like, I have firearms in the house. They're locked up. Are you cool with it? Yeah, I don't care. Or, oh, it makes me nervous. I'm not going to tell them why they shouldn't be nervous. They're a nervous person around them. Cool. I don't want them ever to fire a gun. I don't want them to see mine. So let's go to your house.
Cool.
So that's just how I feel about it.
Okay. Moving on. True crime podcast.
Let's call it what it is.
What is it?
It's an obsession.
It's an obsession.
Yes. Yes. As a matter of fact.
Tell us about this obsession. Tell us how you got obsessed. I don't do true crime podcast.
Oh, I love it.
It's too much. I would get too emotionally invested, and then I would freak out everywhere. Like, I used to remember when Unsolved Mysteries was on.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd hear all the stories about, just a regular person.
Yeah. You mean the stuff that never happens?
Never happens. These are podcasts full of it. And then all of a sudden you're going crazy every day because you're all of a sudden aware of all these other things that maybe it's better not to know.
So that's the funny thing is, while I was doing my research about me exercising my right, I found there's podcasts full of instances that people say never happen.
Okay.
Like so many that there's thousands and thousands and thousands of podcast episodes based on those things that are statistically never going to happen. And that's what made me get into both. Really, it's like, wait a minute. I've never heard of this story. What do you mean 3 guys broke into this house, tied these people up, robbed them blind, and then set the house on fire?
Ugh.
I didn't hear about that on the news. I never heard about that. It just happened this year. Holy cow. Or they're not telling what's going on here. So it was kind of like a mixed thing, but then I got hooked on the stories, the storytelling, and I get into a good story. And I like true crime because it's like
true.
Yeah. It lets you know that there's some crazy stuff out there, but I can't explain the draw. I think it's always wanting to know what happened. How? Why? I think that's why people get obsessed with like Ted Bundy or serial killer. Like, oh my God, I can't get enough of it.
Did you watch Netflix?
Want to know why? Oh yeah, are you kidding me?
What did you think about it?
It's amazing.
He was crazy,
but he was so charming and so real.
That's the crazy part. Was he was a regular guy who lived a very regular life,
ultra intelligent.
Yeah,
ultra intelligent, and most of them are.
And he maintained a relationship, dude. Yeah, and at one time he was basically a family man.
Yeah. I think that's why people get close to it. They want to know how. How on God's green earth did that happen?
What caused you to switch? Yeah.
And then there are some people that have a condition where they have to insert themselves, and they want to get close to stuff like that. So they get obsessed on this, but then they take it to the next level. And they start contacting inmates, and they like to inject themselves into a story because
journalists.
It's
you mean is that what you mean?
Not just journalists, but it's big business. There's people contacting inmates and writing them, and now they're married. And
oh, you mean like the jail girlfriend boyfriend type things?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And it's literally I just learned this.
Like people are looking for love in all the wrong places.
Nicely done. But it's literally I just learned it is a condition. If you grew up in a house where the family was dysfunctional and one of the parents was super abusive and had complete control and one of the parents is gone and it was a tragedy, it's like this perfect mix. You're the type of person that would be drawn to contact one of these guys in prison because it's almost like bringing that element back into your life. They need it. Because people are like, why would you contact?
Because it feels normal.
Yeah.
Because it feels familiar.
I have control over this crazy killer now, and now I'm a part of his life. It's insane. But to me, it's always the why. And how. And how did you not see it? How did you figure it out? I like a good puzzle, too. How did you figure it out? Or do we know everything about that guy? And it's just like driving from hospital to hospital for work. You hear the same radio stuff over and over and over again. Now I'm just into the podcasts and oh, so good. So good. And I want to do one, but I want to do it different.
Like how?
I want to do like updates. I don't want, when you go now.
Yeah, like what happened now? Where are they
what's
now?
What's going on now? Like, hey, we hear about this case and there's 14 podcasts about it. And I listened to all 14 and they all said the same thing. Okay. What's going on today? Where's the case at today? Where's the stuff that they didn't tell you? Where's the stuff that the other ones cut? What truly happened, or what's your theory, and is it a workable theory, not some off the wall thing? So I just want it to be different. And one of the cases that got me into it was the case of Israel Keys.
Which is who?
So this is a recent one. So Israel Keys was a very quiet, he's like a contractor, he built things and he's a veteran and maintained a family, a daughter, but he was flying around the country and burying kids. Kill kits.
He would kill them and bury them?
No. A kit.
Like a what?
A kit. Like a gun, a shovel.
Oh, a kit.
Rope. Yeah. And then 2 years later, when he was in the area.
I thought you said he was flying around the country killing kids.
No, a
and
kit.
burying
No, kits. I'm sorry.
Oh, what?
Kit. So he would have these kits that he called kill kits.
Okay.
Knife, rope, gun, and he'd bury them throughout the country.
Like a treasure map.
Yeah. But then like 2 years later, he'd be in the area, and he'd dig up the kit, and he'd kill somebody. And they couldn't, like, they didn't know. They're still just figuring out it's the tip of the iceberg on this guy. So the reason that the case came to light.
Regular man.
Regular dude. Off the radar.
What did he do for work?
He was a contractor. He's just construction, his own business.
And then that's probably how he dug those holes.
He got caught because I think he wanted to get caught. So he kidnapped a girl from a coffee stand. He killed her, but he kept her body. He sewed her eyelids open.
Oh my God.
And would take pictures of newspapers with her holding it, even though she was passed already, and send them to people saying, yeah, she's alive still, but I need money. So he like went off the rails, like he wanted to get caught. But so they finally caught him, and they realized she'd been dead the whole time. She was never alive. He did, yeah, that maniacal. So he got caught, and while he was caught, he's like, and most of them want notoriety. I don't want the notoriety. I want the death penalty. I want it now. I have a 10-year-old daughter. I don't want her to know anything about me. I don't want it. I'm not doing it for fame. He's like, so I'll tell you all the people I killed if you agree to keep me out of the news. You give me a speedy trial and execute me.
Is that what happened?
No, because he did it in so many states. Every state wanted their pound of flesh. So he kept giving them cases, but then the other jurisdictions would be like, no,
we're not agreeing to this.
And we have more people that are missing. We want him to tell us. He'd be like, I'll tell you if you agree to keep me out of the news. And long story short, he got really mad because his name started popping up in the news. So he wrote this crazy confession note and killed himself in prison. And they're tying cases to him now. And they're still finding bodies. So it went from, I guess he killed 2 people, to God knows how many they're finding kits buried in. And he was so, I don't want to say good, but thoughtful of it, that he would bury a kit, rent a car, drive out that way 2 years later, return the car, fly back, like he would fly somewhere else, drive back home, like he just never left a trail. And if he didn't tell them about all these cases, and he was going to divulge more.
Yeah, imagine how he kept track of that in his mind, right? Because if there was a spreadsheet or a map, they probably would have found it as they're combing through evidence. But they didn't, which is why they needed his story and his testimony. How do you keep track of that? The exact locations and the states, like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. It's interesting though, because it's almost like, what aren't we being told? Because he did have agreements in place that they still have to abide by. And his defense lawyer is still being funded.
Wait, so they had agreements that they have to abide by, the state or the...
Yeah.
With him?
With his estate, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Because they signed a...
To protect the young girl and everything. But his defense attorney is still, to this day, being paid for by his significant other. So
how? How does he have money?
He had money.
Oh, okay.
But that's the thing, is she's still paying the lawyer. So it's like, why does she need to pay the lawyer?
Right.
What's going on?
Why is she? Yeah.
And they're tracking his travels recently, and they're seeing there's missing people in Indiana and in Illinois, and he'd driven through, and it was like his perfect type, and they're really just discovering.
I don't know how you get involved in this stuff.
It's, you just out of need. Like, you got to burn some time when you're driving, and you're like,
yes.
What's this podcast?
You know what? I say that, but then I love other types of podcasts. Like, I don't know if you've listened to Esther Perel.
No.
She is a podcast on relationships.
Okay.
And so she is a therapist, a clinical psychologist, and she does a lot of marriage and family counseling, but primarily marriage. And her specialty is on the sex drive or the sexual relationship between couples, or why husbands cheat or why wives cheat or things like this.
This is racy.
It was so racy. Oh, you know, all you have to do when you're married, you know, my husband and I, we've been married, 13, 14 years. Sometimes you just need a little bit of like, you know, you listen to an episode of another couple going through their stuff and you feel all of a sudden really good about your life.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, that's why I listen about serial killers. I'm like, Grace, I'm not that bad. But then every now and then she'll see like something they did and she's like, I'm not doing that. I'm not.
This gives me a little bit of, you know, roller coaster.
I'm just burying kids. I'm not.
But what I love about it is the insight that she has is so great for couples and very common sense. And the way that she talks with them, it's like you're listening to a private conversation.
Yeah.
I love that. I cannot get enough of that. And you
it,
probably would get bored out of your mind with that.
I would. But that's not because I don't think there's a need. It's just.
We just have different.
It's an escape.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So like, it's stressful running your own business and constantly keeping that moving in the right direction and making the right call. But then also if you're working in a case that day, that could be stressful. You have somebody on.
And you just want to zone out.
I want to watch an episode of something in my brain that takes me away from this world and just makes me sit there and eat popcorn and think. So a long drive, that's great. Sometimes I have to drive to Indiana for a case. Sometimes I have to drive to Wisconsin for a case. It could be a 2-3 hour drive to me instead of going, I got to wake up at 4. And I'm like, that's three podcast episodes.
Yeah. Well, that's what I like about podcasts is it's a very passive way to learn and to just take in content. And it could be educational. It could be very specific and you know, topic based, or it can just informational. Here's a new way to meet a new person that might be relevant to their day-to-day living.
Right.
And sometimes it's useful to get to know you and just to hear you.
Only
sometimes.
For me. Just sometimes.
Just sometimes.
Yeah. Don't want
Not all the time.
That's why I hide now.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many divisive topics out there now, you know, and it's like we could pick one and go at it. Or we could just sit here and tell people things.
Yeah, like talk. Politics.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is about that, too, it's like everybody's got a story.
Yeah.
And everybody's story leads them to why they lean a certain way. And I just think people need to respect that. You know?
I think, yes.
Respect it.
Yeah.
You know, don't try to change their mind. And if it's something that maybe they just don't know, then persuade.
Or inform.
In persuading and informing is by asking questions. Let them tell you why.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, it should be more question asking from you than browbeating. And I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I call people names, but it's different, you know, when they come at you sideways and saying, you shouldn't do this and you don't deserve to do that. And who are you? Like, are you paying my bills? Are you raising my family? No. And even some of my friends, when they start going in, I'll say, hey, like, you take a deep breath. And I'm like, are you trying to look good in front of other people and look right in front of other people, and that's why you're coming at them sideways? Or are you trying to inform this person? Because sometimes you need to just step back, take a deep breath, and say why. And that's what I tell everybody if they want to say, you're stupid for backing that candidate. You're stupid for backing that candidate. Instead of saying that, tell me why you back that candidate. That's it. You know, it might not be the candidate. It's possible to be, you know, a left-leaning liberal or a right-leaning liberal. It's completely possible to be conservative fiscally and morally liberal. Find out. You guys might have everything in common and you just mislabeled yourselves and you're going red team, blue team, which is stupid. It's tribalism. Find out. There's this big middle ground and that's where we all are. And we could probably pick the right person if we all didn't let the media divide us into two nice little parties.
Yeah, I agree. So
it's hard to talk about that stuff unless you're ready for a boxing match. But be willing to take it. Be willing to take it on the chin, you know, because everybody's got to tell their story.
And I do think that there just is more room for having open, honest discussion and dialogue from a place of, here's who I am. Not this is even why I believe what I believe, but this is just who I am.
Right.
And I'll share with you why if you're interested. And maybe I'll find a way to enlighten you on my perspective.
Right.
But my end goal is I just want to show up for you.
Yeah.
As 100% authentic in who I am. This is something we all do because I feel like from a lens of professionalism, we kind of have put personality to the background.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to change. Mm-hmm. I just want to change. I want to bring personality back to business. Mm-hmm. I want to bring personality back to profession. Mm-hmm. I want to bring the person out and then understand the profession or understand the value and the skills that you have to offer.
Some people are just afraid to speak up about it. Mm-hmm. And some people just want to say, nope, you're stupid. I'm right. That's the way it is. Check this meme. So I just think people need to. Discourse is how this country was founded. Yeah. Healthy discourse.
Healthy discourse.
Have it. Cool. Let's sit at a table that's shaped like a circle and let's go. And we would come together and find the right things to do more often than not.
More often than not.
Right.
But the last thing I wanted to ask you was, when you think back about your life and you think back about your story, what are the people that inspired you?
It's hard because everything I did, I don't think I did it the right way. So inspiration, I don't know if I had it. You know what I mean? It's mm-hmm. like I chose the wrong paths to do the things I did. I chose the hardest ways to do it. So inspiration, it's hard to say I have one, because I think I went in all kinds of different directions. So I feel like I'm still finding my way. I see people like Bill Rancic, mm-hmm. and I think about his journey, and I think that's a person to look up to and look towards.
I don't know his journey other than Juliana and The Apprentice.
Well, like his business, like the way he rose up through the business ranks and family and all that stuff. Like it's cool to be inspired by a man who does that, and put so much value into family. It's really hard to say this is the man, the type of person I'm out. It's just, I'm figuring it out, and I think I'm just kind of going. So,
like us all.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna think about that one though, because you got me thinking.
Okay, well, I mean, is there anything else?
No, this is fun. That's one of the things when we talked about this. I thought it would be great just to sit down and talk about anything, because we can do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you from being here. I will follow up with you, and I appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. This is awesome.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to Tuesdays with Andrea. There are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there, and I appreciate you making the time to listen to mine. If you like this show and want to know more, check out TuesdaysWithAndrea.com, or please leave a review on iTunes or drop a line in the YouTube comments section. Until next time, please stay kind in your mind, nice on the web, and stay hella hopeful in your heart.